Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And we've come to the end of the road for G.I. Joe the Magazine this week. It's the end of the road. That's it. I'm sorry, I won't subject you to that any longer, but you know what I'm saying. But I can't let it go. You guys hear me? Yeah, we've covered all the episodes. After today, we'll have covered all the episodes of the G.I. Joe Magazine. I'm so excited. Woo! It's nice when I complete things. We're still halfway through Draw With and halfway through 3D. But no, it feels good. And it's been a fun journey. For you new listeners, I have been, most of this, the later part of the summer, we've been covering the G.I. Joe Magazine. So go back into the recent episodes and catch up. Talk about going through page by page, article by excruciating article. And so much of it, I've said this before, is so not about G.I. Joe that it's no wonder that it failed. But this, or not failed, I wouldn't say failed, but it ended abruptly. G.I. Joe, this is 88. G.I. Joe still had a good few couple of years in it, right? I would say if this lasted through like 90, 91, then I would say, okay, it ran its course. But kind of this, I wonder what the story is. And I haven't really seen any like oral history of the G.I. Joe magazine, but I wonder if this was just kind of a publishing venture that overall just didn't really work. To be honest, I can see why, because it's so generic, the non-G.I. Joe stuff. Make it more G.I. Joe. That's all I'm saying. But I'm excited. We're going to cover it. Fall of 1988. Get ready. It's a gorgeous cover, actually. Very Indiana Jones-esque cover. I believe it's Dave Dorman, simply because it kind of looks like Dave Dorman stuff. It's also hard to find attributed artwork for some of the stuff. Like, I don't know who did the poster on this either. It very much looks like the poster from last issue, which we also didn't know who did. We'll get to that when we get there. So, but yeah, it's a good looking cover. It's the one with Tunnel Rat kind of Indiana Jonesing a ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. There's a little cat statue wrapped in a cloth on one side. I believe that's Hardball holding a torch. We've got Voltar leaping out of one of the caverns. And the other Cobra is a Cobra Toxo Viper, which I kind of really like being added to this cover, because in the whole sarcophagus archaeological stuff, there very often was noxious gases that were being trapped in a lot of these tombs, after thousands or however many years of being sealed up with all the decay. A lot of times there was poisonous gases. So if I'm remembering correctly, something I read once, one of the origins of the idea that some of these sarcophaguses or some of these tombs were haunted is that when they opened these tombs, there was maybe methane or something, or chlorine gas, something poisonous in there that would hit the first wave of people that literally discovered it. This goes going back, 100 years, a couple hundred years, 1700s or whatever. They would find it, they would open it up, and then they would die or at least, get knocked out or what have you, because they got hit with all this poison gas that wasn't necessarily a trap per se, but was just the function of science and chemicals and stuff. So then I believe that's how some of the myths around haunted tombs and traps and things like that began. If I'm totally pulling that out of my butt, I apologize, but I swear I read that somewhere. And of course, I'm not doing the research to figure out where, but I think that's the case. So I like seeing that there's a Toxo Viper on this cover. It's kind of fun that at least Cobra's sending the proper person. Airtight should be with Tunnel Rat, but Tunnel Rat works though. Tunnel Rat, because he's tunneling. The baseball player totally doesn't work. Hardball's absolutely out of place here. However, I think Voltar works because he would be like the leader. He'd be the lieutenant running this operation. So everyone here is out of place except for, or is everyone here is supposed to be here except for Hardball. Hardball, you're ruining it. Anyway, Before we dive deep, welcome back to all you listeners. Welcome to you new listeners. Please say hello online, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe and Joe Pod. You can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. And if you want to be a guest on the show for our You and Joe segment, send me an email over there. And we are planning definitely multi-part. It's like a 2 month series of shows that we're going to be doing some deep dives in. I'm putting it together this week. We finished recording it last week. I'm very excited to tell you all about it. But that will come in the next week or so. I think I've got like 2 or 3 more of these kind of standard eps before we launch the next quarter's worth of Joe stuff, which is going to be very exciting. And thank you all so much for going along on that ride with us and saying hello. You can also go to patreon.com/joeandjoepod if you want to help support the show, or if you want to check out some of our back catalog. There are episodes on there that do not exist in the main feed. And also, we want you to celebrate and support our sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been great to us. I just saw the Saturday Night Live movie called Saturday Night, appropriately enough, and I thought it was great. That was wonderful. Who knows how much of it is accurate? I imagine quite a bit of it. I don't know if it's so, because it takes place in like literally the 90 minutes before the show. Who knows how much of it is condensed for the airing of, for the telling of the story. But it's absolutely great. I really enjoyed it, especially if you're someone like me who grew up with Saturday Night Live and it's just been a part of my TV habits since I was a little kid. That was our forbidden fruit. If we stayed up late enough on a Saturday night, that our parents would let us watch it. And ups and downs over the years, but I've always found something to enjoy on that show, and I still do. And it's turning 50 this year. I'm turning 50 this year. So it's literally been like the show of my lifetime. That's always been something special. So watching that movie, I really enjoyed it. The performances were fabulous. They were knockout. Some of those, you can't even call them impressions, because they're embodying a lot of the original players. They're doing more like pastiches of them, really. And they're bringing a lot, the actors are bringing a lot to it. So I thought that was wonderful. It was great. So highly recommend Saturday Night. I'm sure that the Movies and a Meal will cover it. And I highly recommend you go listen to the Movies and a Meal podcast. Now, let's talk G.I. Joe magazine, fall of 1988. And I will remind viewers, I'm reading this off a screen with old eyes. So there will be moments when I will be hard to see, because I do have terrible vision. That is something about me that has never changed. I've had that terrible vision since I was a child. And, I've given up on it miraculously changing. So we got that great Dave Dorman cover. We then get another commercial or advertisement for the Transformers Pretenders. I like that. Keep meaning to reach out to Matt Kyle about that. Matt, if you hear this, I want to see some of these Transformer Pretenders. It's a great looking ad, and I want to see what the toy was all about. So in the table of contents, we've got Land of Ice, the true tale of 3 brave men who walked over 900 miles of ice to the South Pole. I just watched the movie The Thing, speaking of. And on the flip side, the Joes are in an adventure called Sahara Surprise. Amid the swirling sands of North Africa, the Joe team battles the forces of Cobra. Got another article on roller coasters. I feel like we've done amusement parks before. America's best runners, divers, spikers, entertainers, more Olympic coverage. You can't tear a page out of a G.I. Joe magazine without talking about the Olympics. And adventures with a paramedic. That's fun. And bicycles for the in-action department. They're talking about cycling and BMX riding and all that stuff. Our Joe to introduce us through the final issue of the G.I. Joe magazine is Charbroil. I like Charbroil. He was this was past my time, so I didn't have him as a kid, but he's a figure I've come to appreciate quite a bit as an adult. In fact, I made him in the WW2K23, not 2.4, but last year's version, 2.3. I made a Charbroil wrestler, and I thought it looked pretty good. The helmet was quite difficult to make with all the layers and such, because they didn't necessarily have a Charbroil looking helmet. I thought it turned out pretty well. So Charborough has given us the 10 hut. Hey, Joe team, wait till you check out this new issue of G.I. Joe magazine. It's hot. Pun there. Just a little flamed out humor there. We hotheads sometimes think we're pretty funny. Cobra didn't think it was too funny when we spoiled their desert party in Sahara Surprise. This issue's exciting story. No dessert for Cobra. Man, Charborough is a punster. The G.I. Joes may be America's best hero, but you'll meet real Olympic heroes in a preview of the Summer Olympics. And one place I'm sure my flames would come in handy is the South Pole. Check out the Adventure Story Destination Antarctica and read about the terrific dog sled racer, Susan Butcher. And on Target, we're going to talk about the new football season, flight of a wild new plane, radical new gear for back to school, and the in-action section features cycling and adventure with a paramedic, a life-saving hero. Now, it's back to school for you and back to training for us, G.I. Joes. I'm just burning up with excitement to get back to work. Enjoy the magazine, and remember, don't play with matches. Leave that to me, Joe Charborough. There is no mention of this being the last issue. Unless somewhere I'm missing it. I do not see anywhere. I flipped through this. I don't see anywhere where this says, and subscribers, your SOL. I believe what they would do is they would flip your subscription over to some other magazine. So whether it was Transformers or Thundercats or, some other magazine that the company was printing, unless the company completely folded, but I have a feeling they didn't. But after this, I'm assuming someone got something else. So listeners, if you subscribe to the G.I. Joe magazine and you were getting this, let me know what you got after this one folded. We've got an ad for Nickelodeon wear clothing. You can get a Double Dare t-shirt, Finder's Keeper t-shirt, a Nickelodeon backpack, ball cap, a free yo-yo with purchase. It's all very exciting. In the mail call section, we've got a drawing of the Cobra, the Wolf. I think, is that the Wolf? The Cobra Wolf, which is a cool, that's a cool vehicle, from Claire Mercy out of Gaylord, Michigan. A drawing of a standard Viper from Chris Stansley from Warren, Rhode Island. And what looks to be from Daryl Mills out of New York, New York. I gotta be honest, Daryl. I have no idea who that G.I. Joe is. I think it's supposed to be Outback. Just based on the red hair. I think it's supposed to be Outback. But I say this because it's drawn from a profile view. So it doesn't have the survival on the front or anything. I really can't tell what Joe that's supposed to be. But I'm going to say Outback. Letters from Ryan Kozar from Manalapan, New Jersey. Ryan Ricks out of Marietta, Georgia. Dusty Heathman, Palm Beach, Florida. And Christian Finley out of Neptune City, New Jersey. It's a truncated mail call. It feels like actually this issue is maybe it's like one register short. They shrunk it up a little bit knowing it was the last. We get some more Archie Fruitosaurus ads. This is a neat one. It's a new one, rather. Also neat. But hey, kids, mom and dad, UNICEF and I have wanted you to have fun on Halloween. So remember to trick or treat with a friend. Never wear masks that block your vision. Wait until you get home before eating your treats. And never talk to strangers with Spider-Man on the UNICEF ad. So that's cool. Spider-Man giving you some Halloween tips, which comes in handy because we're just a couple weeks away from Halloween. Hey, everybody. Hey. For more information how you can help UNICEF, help children, they give a phone number. I don't know if that phone number is still good for UNICEF. So in our On Target section, we've got 3 kids in very, very John Hughesian clothing for going back to school and looking cool. I don't think maybe I wore like anything other than jeans to school. I don't think I did. I feel like I wore jeans literally every day for most of my life, not even adult life. I don't remember really wearing like slacks, khakis. I don't think I own khakis. No, I must have for like Sunday, but yeah. So it's just the 3 kids who end up punching each other in the face. On Target, Hut 1, Hut 2, Hike. And it's Super Bowl MVP Doug Williams. Doug Williams throwing for another touchdown. This was when he was playing with the Washington Redskins. I watched the recent documentary about they went from the Oilers to the Tennessee Titans. That quarterback who his name's escaping me, who ended up getting killed just a couple years after he retired, and it was on like Netflix. It was HBO, and it was good. It was a good documentary. If you remember who I'm talking about, I apologize for forgetting the name. I wasn't prepared to talk about it, but seeing the Doug Williams thing made me think of, oh man, I just watched about that quarterback getting killed, and it was crazy. It's a good documentary. Check it out. If I think of the name, I'll call you. Pedaling in the skies. Scientists from the U.S. may have taken a cue from E.T. and his flying bicycle. They recently set a new distance record for human-powered flight. The scientists designed a special plane. They called it the Daedalus, which, I believe Daedalus is the son who, Icarus went too close to the sun. I think Daedalus was his dad, right? Which was powered by not by a motor, but by the furiously pedaling feet of Greek cycling champion Kanilos Kanilopoulos. Wow. His pedals turned a propeller, which kept the plane aloft for its almost 4-hour flight. That's pretty wild. Tailed by speedboats, the graceful plane, with its 112-foot wingspan, flew 74 miles over the Aegean Sea, from Crete to the island of Santorini. Although Daedalus crashed into the surf on Santorini's beaches, the flight was a success. Kanilopoulos drank a special energy drink, I'll bet he did, with sugar and salt to keep his strength up and his feet moving. His record-setting flight meant that he pedaled the equivalent of 2 marathon runs back to back. Humans have always wanted to be birds. Until we grow wings, this may be the next best thing. That is pretty cool. In the picture they have of him, he's not flying terribly high above the ocean. Now, maybe this was when he was landing, but he's really, he's within striking distance of falling, which, what I'm thinking there is he really probably had to keep pedaling the whole time, like furiously, instead of, gliding for a little bit if he's that close to the ground. That's crazy. That's good for him. Yeah. You don't see a lot of bicycle-operated flight lately. I feel like we need more of that. Sports Illustrated Kids magazine, Michael Jordan on the cover, because who wins is only part of the story. So you can subscribe to the Sports Illustrated magazine. Lots of ads for other magazines because they know this one is ending. We've got a 2-page spread on cycling. And this is neat. I like when they've done this, though. They cover something like cycling, but then they do different things. So they got a little bit on BMX. They got a little bit on like 10 speeds, just your own private, just bicycling. And then they've got something on competitive racing, things like that. So it's different aspects of one bigger subject. I think they've done a good job with that. America's Best. These are the Olympic hopefuls. How many of these do we remember? On September 16th, more than 10,000 of the world's best athletes will march nation by nation into Seoul's. Oh yeah, this was the Seoul Summer Olympics, main Olympic Stadium, to celebrate the colorful opening ceremonies. Karch Karai, I remember him, volleyball player. Matt Biondi, he was a swimmer. I do remember that name. Edwin Moses, he was a track and field guy. He was very, very fast. And of course, the Queen, Jackie Joyner Kersee, she was amazing. Greg Louganis, of course. This was the year he hit his head, I think, if memory serves. And Scott Johnson, a name that will not live on in my brain. That is, he's a gymnast. He was let's see, Cheers in 84 when it won the Olympic gold. Johnson was a member of that team and is expected to be the backbone of the 88 American squad. Well, I don't follow, gymnasts, so I may be a fool. He may be the greatest male gymnast to ever compete. I know that Simone Biles currently is the greatest gymnast, but I don't know who Scott Johnson is. Denise Parker, she's an archer. She was only 14. Good for her. She's out of South Jordan, Utah. So if she's 14 here, she could have competed at 18 again, 22. I bet she probably could have competed in like 4 total Olympics if she was. Yeah, interesting. Carl Lewis, the king, of course. Carl Lewis, fastest human in the world. Well, he was. Now it's Ben Johnson. But Ben Johnson, didn't Ben Johnson get caught doing steroids? I feel like Ben Johnson got caught cheating. Christy Phillips, she's a gymnast. I feel like her and Steve Johnson, Scott Johnson. See, I can't even remember. It's one page later. I can't even remember his name. They both take up the same headspace. Now we get to this awesome pull-out poster, folded up, pulled-out poster, and it's absolutely in that Marvel Comics comic booky style of the previous issue, and it looks great. Like, I like it. It's really, it's super cartoony. Would look great on a wall. Would look very much in step with like an episode of a cartoon. Like if this were some kind of storyboard or something like that. We got Charbroil, Chuckles. Oh, by the way, big shout out to major friend and friend of the show, of course, Paul Galliano, just celebrated a birthday. He's always behind on this show, so he'll probably hear this by his next birthday. But Paul, if you hear this, shout out, happy birthday. We celebrated his birthday last week, and I was getting dressed to go there, and I have one Hawaiian kind of shirt that I don't really wear much. It's not usually my style, but I went, you know what? I'm going to dress like Chuckles for Paul's birthday. So I dressed like Chuckles to go to a bar that was absolutely not a costume party, but I was dressed as Chuckles and no one knew it. I was just the big guy in the Hawaiian shirt. But I was really dressed. I did not have a gun strapped across my chest, though. So that probably was what threw people off. And I'm bald. Charbroil, Chuckles. I believe that's Falcon. Although I think his coloring's off a little bit. It looks like the back of Law from Law and Order. They're fighting Crocmaster. I believe is that Lightfoot in the back with the ghillie hat? I don't know who this G.I. Joe is. Oh, you know what? I think that's supposed to be Hit and Run. It is supposed to be Hit and Run. He's just colored wrong. He's colored yellow, so he looks more like a tiger, like Tiger Man. But I can see why you would color it different, because there's a green alligator that's attacking him. I believe that's totally Hit and Run. But there's a green alligator that's kind of coming at him. And if the green on green would not pop very well, because the colors pop. Actually, the colors really are what stands out in this. It's a nice display of color. So that happens at the expense of some of the traditional coloring. And we've got Toxo Vipers. We've got the Cobra Commander, the Armor Cobra Commander, and a Buzzbore. In the back, it looks like Shockwave, Tunnel Rat, and I can't determine who the middle guy is, to be honest. They're a little small, and again, my eyes. Road Pig, Swing Overhead, which, by the way, I just got my Road Pig classified in the mail today. He looks awesome. I got Raptor in the mail yesterday. Fabulous. And then there's some Adestro's Iron Grenadiers in the back. It's good. It's a good looking poster. I got Raptor in the mail. I really like Raptor. I like the upgrade design, but I gotta say, it feels too cool for Raptor. There's something about old school Raptor, and I'm not knocking this. They did a wonderful job on this, full stop. This is not me complaining. There was just something so dumb about Raptor that I kind of want them to do a cloth wing version of Raptor like that. Please, 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 if you're hearing me, do because this chip Raptor Talon and General Ledger, which, by the way, General Ledger for his bird is perfect. It's a great figure. It looks really cool. I really, really dig it. And it actually makes a lot of sense in the classified line. But man, would I love to see a version at 6 inches with the cloth wings. Yes. Or how about this? How about you just sell for $15 a cloth wing accessory pack and do it like a mail away, like the old school Flag Point mail aways. So just make it, bag it, and ship it cheap to us if we want. And it's just a pair of, like a backpack for him with a pair of attachable cloth wings. I'm telling you, you wouldn't have to tool up all new action figure stuff. You would have to do the cloth wing stuff. I get it, but that would be awesome. And Road Pig looks great. So good job, Hasbro, on those two figures. I really, really like them. So after the poster, we go to Land of Ice. This is that South Pole story. And they talk about how, having to just traverse that much ice. Speaking of like the movie The Thing, man, it is a wasteland down there, man. It is an alien planet for sure. Really, really crazy. When we camped each night, we slept right next to each other, head to foot, in a small tent. Each morning, we were up by 7 to preserve body temperature, I imagine. The moment I opened my eyes, I felt as if I hadn't even slept the night before. There's barely enough room for us to sleep in the tent. Moving and putting on socks was even more difficult. Dressing was a gymnastic exercise. It was very cold. You couldn't dress rapidly. Dressing for the day could actually mean the difference between life and death. It would certainly mean the difference between comfort and discomfort during the day's walk. By the way, I didn't even introduce who this guy. This is Robert Swan, Gareth Wood, and Roger Meir. They walked over 900 miles following the path of Robert Scott, who in 1912 became the first man to walk to the pole. So this is a section from Swan's book about their exploits called Destination Antarctica, if you wanted to check that out. Our first major obstacle was the 400-mile wide Ross ice sheet. That's just you have me at 400 miles wide. Stop it. So now we get the Sahara surprise story. We'll read it later. Another advertisement for another magazine. This is National Geographic World. A couple of kids who are way too excited to be reading about koalas. Let's go Sahara surprise. Sahara surprise. This is cool. So we get a little 2-page spread advertisement for Saturday morning cartoons. And do we say what channel? Find your favorite Saturday mornings. CBS. Wow. Okay, whoever designed this, I'm not even joking. Whoever designed this in the marketing team, they buried the fact that it was on CBS in the lower right corner of this. They needed a giant CBS eye logo on this. Find your favorites on Saturday mornings. And it's a little maze, so you can have fun with the maze. It's Superman. For my money, that Superman CBS 1988 cartoon, if you all have not seen that, it's one of the best Superman cartoons they've ever made. They ended each episode. It was like it was a half-hour show, and let's say it was a 15-minute adventure, and then there was a 5-minute or 6-minute, no, it had to be longer than that. It was like 18-minute adventure and like a 3 or 4 minute vignette story about his origins from Ma Kent's scrapbook, and so it would delve into his history. So it would give his origin. So you have a full Superman story, and then a little bit of him growing up in Smallville, or just his early days being Superman. And it was all ripped from the John Byrne stuff that he was doing in the mid '80s. It was great. CBS cartoon is absolutely great. Honestly, seek it out. At 8 a.m., you had the Adventures of Raggedy Ann and Andy. Then you rolled into 8:30 Superman. I would watch that. I've watched a lot of that Raggedy Ann and Andy because I was watching that Superman show. Yeah, I absolutely. Wow, God, I forgot all about that cartoon. At 9 a.m., you have Jim Henson's Muppet Babies, which is all-timer. It is such a shame that so much of that show is under copyright trouble for just Entangled. Not trouble, but just Entangled, because that show used, who didn't want to work with Jim Henson? So they used Star Wars stuff. They used Indiana Jones stuff. They used, which is crazy because a lot of the things that I remember them referencing are now all owned by Disney. So why don't we have a Muppet Babies? Why isn't that show readily available? If it is, I have not seen it. I'm sure it's bootlegged somewhere on some video site, but Muppet Babies was great. Really, really charming show. Then we had 10 a.m. Pee-wee's Playhouse. I love Pee-wee Herman. 10:30 Garfield and Friends. Also kind of a funny show. 11 a.m. Hey Vern, it's me, Ernest. Or Hey Vern, it's Ernest. That's when I would tune out. Then at 11:30, a show called Flip, which I absolutely have no idea what it was, but it looks live action. It looks dumb. At 12 p.m., we had Mighty Mouse, The New Adventures. That, I believe, was Ralph Bakshi. And I think it was too good it was good. I think it was better than it needed to be. They did around that time, Marvel did a comic book, I believe, in association with that. And the book parodied a lot of comic book stuff. So like it had a Dark Knight parody cover, things like that. So it was kind of really digging into the comic book world that Mighty Mouse kind of sort of didn't live in. He was really an animated thing. I liked it. It was good. And 12:30 we had CBS Story Break. I was absolutely tuned out by then. So very much in the corner, it tells you that you need to tune into CBS for that. That got me thinking. I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm going to find all the old, or as many as I can, those old preview shows for Saturday mornings where they would, and I found a couple right before we went on the air here. And it was, the one I found was like this live NBC one. It was live action with Alf and Betty White and a bunch of kids on an adventure. And they had a half-hour adventure, and every 5 minutes they would encounter something that would be a tease for one of the new cartoons, and you'd see a snippet of the new cartoon. Those are the shows I'm talking about. Those shows were fabulous when I was a kid. They're probably terrible, but growing up, man, I couldn't wait for that show. It was awesome. So I'm announcing this. I'm doing a deep dive. I'm going to see if I can find more of those on YouTube. So then we get a little one page on roller coasters. Scary fun for everyone. Talking about wooden roller coasters. I wonder if they're talking about the Eagle. The Eagle was the big wooden roller coaster in Six Flags in Gurnee, Illinois. That's the one we went to. And I know at the time they were like, it's the biggest in the world. It was Great America. Then it became Six Flags Great America. And now I think it's just Six Flags. But the Eagle, we were on it all the time. Let's see. They talk about a roller coaster called Shockwave at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I've never been. Six Flags Georgia, Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, if you've... the Eagle was great. All the way, even as an adult. It was a little more rickety. I don't even know if it's still there, to be honest. I haven't been a Great American probably 20 years. But the last time I rode it, it was still a lot of fun, even though it's rickety. And now the rickety adds to the element of danger, because all you think about is, does my insurance cover this? We get an advertisement for the DuckTales magazine. We get Code Breakers. We get a Jungle Maze. So this is a G.I. Joe Jungle Maze, kind of, sort of. There's a picture of Storm Shadow, and it's help Storm Shadow find Cobra Commander in the Jungle Maze. I'm assuming find him to assassinate him. And the traps that you could run into in the circular maze of thorns there's a really strangely drawn tiger, quicksand, of course, the bane of existence for anyone in the 1980s. There's a snake, a fat snake, giant tarantula, spider of some type. There's a Venus flytrap, awesome. And then in the center of it all, Cobra Commander in his battle gear. There's a football jumble. Unscramble the following football words and write in the blanks to discover the Miami, Florida site of the Super Bowl. So it's the name of the stadium, Joe Robbie Stadium. Yeah, interesting. And finally, the adventure with the paramedic at the back. This is where, the reporter kind of day in the life of things. So this is all about a paramedic. I'm assuming it's not, what's the Martin Scorsese paramedic movie with Nick Cage? I'm assuming it's not that intense. And we get an advertisement for Nintendo for the Freedom Stick, the wireless giant stick, which would have made great for fighting games. And on the back page of the magazine itself, it's fighting crime in a future times, an advertisement for the Cops cartoon beginning every weekday in September. So this might have been the first time you heard about Cops. That's exciting. Cops was great. I applaud Cops. I celebrate Cops. It was a really good show. Much better than it probably appears on its surface. It's really, really good. Check out Cops if you can. So that's the G.I. Joe magazine. We're going to read the story now. Sahara Surprise. There's a picture here. I'm not sure yet, since we haven't dug into the story of which Joe it is, but he's stripping down, ripping his jacket off, get ready for that hot Sahara heat. Do you think he's still alive? Oh, sorry, Diamonds in the Rough, Cobras in the Sand. Do you think he's still alive? Asked Lightfoot. Skidmark laughed. Do you think I'd be breaking down every speed limit known to mankind for someone who wasn't alive? He asked. Well, yeah, cried his buddies, who knew Skidmark drove the only one way with the accelerator to the floor. Skidmark, Lightfoot, Outback, and Blizzard were speeding across the Sahara Desert in a Desert Fox. Their mission was to find a Cobra camp which no one knew for certain really existed. Then they had to rescue a man no one had ever seen before. The man was Yassi Obmobi, Obmobi, an Egyptian with something very unusual to sell. He had discovered a scientific process which would turn sand into diamonds. He could turn the entire Sahara Desert into a pile of diamonds if he wanted to. The big trouble with this was that too many diamonds could ruin the world's economy. Cobra wanted to buy the process from Obmobi. Oh man, we really chose a name here. And the Joes wanted it too, mostly to keep Cobra from getting it. So Cobra had decided to eliminate the competition by kidnapping Obmobi. Why couldn't we just call him Yassi? Here's another one. Here's another question, Lightfoot said. Even if Yassi, Obmobi, is still alive, do you think the snakes have tortured his secret process out of him yet? No one knew the real answer to that, but Skidmark pushed the vehicle harder. Time was running out. You're quiet, Blizzard, Outback said. Blizzard said, yeah, I'm in a desert. No, he just laughed. You expect me to be cheerful in this? He said, pointing to the desert. That's so funny. I didn't know that was his line. That's the right answer. Blizzard and Outback were good friends, but the two Joes couldn't be more different. Outback was born in Wyoming, and he was the friendly and outgoing type. He loved deserts and jungles. Any place that was both hot and deadly. Blizzard, on the other hand, was from New England. He never said much. He thrived on cold the way Outback did on heat. Blizzard couldn't believe that he was chosen for an assignment in the Sahara Desert, but like every other Joe, he figured that decision was made for a reason. Yearly shelf life. And besides, his job was to follow orders. Sand is only useful for 2-minute egg timers, Blizzard said, knowing that would get Outback's goat. Hey, the desert is what the Arctic would be like if it ever got enough sun, Outback replied. Suddenly, the desert transport came to a stop. A quick, jarring stop that almost knocked the Joe team out of their seats. Well, this is a lousy time to be breaking for animals, Outback said. Take it easy, Skidmark, Lightfoot warned. I've got enough explosives in the back to turn the desert into the Grand Canyon. As a rule, a smile was a permanent part of Skidmark's California face. But now he was frowning. I didn't stop, Skidmark exclaimed. We've got a dead vehicle on our hands. There was no sense in saying the timing was rotten or that they were miles away from the Cobra camp. Everyone knew that. Dead vehicles can be fixed, Outback said. It could take hours. Skidmark said. There could be sand in the fuel line or in a filter. Could be a bad circuit board that can't take the heat. I can dig that, Blizzard said. Get your backpacks out, guys. Outback ordered. Pack only essentials. Keep them as light as you can. Then Lightfoot asked another one of his questions. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? He asked. I'm thinking we have to go the rest of the way on foot, Outback said. Yeah, and I'm thinking this drops our odds of getting to Yassi Obmobi by about 80%, but I'm also thinking we don't have any other choice, Skidmark. You stay behind and get this car running again. Catch up with us. We may need a lift. Thank God they're writing Skidmark out of the story. Outback loved a survival challenge, but so did the desert. And right then, the desert threw everything it had at the Joe team. The rays of the sun hit them like baseball bats. The reflection off the sand was blinding. The dunes were tall, and climbing them was difficult. The sand swallowed the Joe's boots up to their shins with every step. Just don't fall down, guys, Outback said. Well, why? Lightfoot asked. We too heavy for you to pick up? I know what the desert can do to people, Outback said. Seriously, if you fall, you won't want to get up. I've seen the end of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I know what happens in the sand. What is that? Blizzard asked, pointing towards a large cloud of sand that was heading toward the sandstorm. We better hope not, Outback said. It's easier to breathe underwater than in a sandstorm. Outback snapped on his binocular goggles. Hey, fellas, we're in big luck. That's not a sandstorm at all. It wasn't until the dark cloud came closer that Blizzard and Lightfoot saw what it was. Camels. A dozen of them in a wild herd charging across the desert. If we can catch them, we can ride them to the Cobra camp, Outback said. Taxi! Lightfoot whistled and waved to get the camel's attention. Suddenly there was a large explosion that kicked up a mountain of sand. One of the camels was gone, blown to bits. Oh my God, that's terrible. Oh my God. Wait. I just realize the drawing is that of an exploding camel. Oh my God. For a moment, the Joes had just looked at each other shocked. Who would do that to wild animals? Then a second explosion rocked the desert and knocked the team off its feet. Well, those aren't camels, real camels, Lightfoot yelled. They're robots, robotic bombs. Okay, that's better. So whoever did the artwork, and their name is actually in there, but it's really small. Yeah, it's really small. Hold on. Oh, Pennington. Is that Mark Pennington? I think. It is a painted drawing of an explosion with a camel with a dopey look on his face. And it's the trademark Joe explosion with like black, smoky outlines, orange and red, white inside. And there's just like a camel leg that's half metal, half robot, like a bat leg, half camel leg. It's very funny. And then there's another camel that's looking on with its tongue out. Like, as a robot camel, it's shocked to see what it's seeing. For a moment, the Joes just looked at each other, shocked. Who would do that to wild animals? Then a second explosion happened. Sorry. Those aren't real. Lightfoot took out an explosive sensing device and confirmed his theory. They're robots, all right, he said. A little present from Cobra. A robot sensing device. So Outback and Blizzard started firing at them. We've got to knock them out before they get too close to us, Outback shouted. They shot them. I'm sorry. They shot down several, exploding them at a safe distance. But several robots, now they say robots, shame on them for not saying several robotic camels kept coming closer. Finally, Lightfoot launched a bunch of handheld mini rockets that came at the mechanical camels. There you go. From all sides. They exploded with tremendous force, after which the desert was totally silent. Robotic camels with life-sensing detonator bombs, Lightfoot said. Now I've seen everything. But for Outback, it was back to business as usual. Well, let's keep marching. We gotta find Cobra. Hours later, when the exhausted team approached the area where the intelligence said Cobra was camped, they couldn't believe their eyes. In the distance was not a Cobra camp, actually, but an Egyptian pyramid, tall and sun-bleached white in the middle of the Sahara. It can't be, Blizzard said. Or did we just march 20 miles in the wrong direction? Lightfoot asked with a pained expression. The brass isn't going to like us striking out, Outback said gloomily. He took a small sip from his canteen. It was all he had left. Then, from behind them, they heard the rumbling of an engine. Skidmark pulled up in his Desert Fox. He hopped out quickly, pointing at the pyramid. What's that doing here? Well, maybe it's a mirage, Blizzard said. You can see those if you've been in the desert too long, can't you? It's not a mirage, buddy, Outback said, slapping Blizzard on the back. But the next best thing. A hologram, Skidmark asked. The snakes could be hiding behind it. There's only one way to find out, Outback said. Drive through it. Let's get back in the bus, boys. If they were right, they would smash through the holographic projector and into the Cobra camp. If they were wrong, they would soon be a messy splatter on the side of a mysterious ancient pyramid. Skidmark floored the accelerator and steered his vehicle straight for the pyramid. Fasten your seatbelts, he shouted. We're in for a bumpy ride. 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, 1 foot to impact. But there was no impact. The vehicle drove right through the pyramid. It wasn't really there. On the other side of the hologram was a line of Cobra troops, guns ready. The Joes started firing as soon as they saw them. Before we go any further, I want to point out that's the stupidest thing I've ever read the Joes ever do. There was no need. It's one thing when they show this and like you're in a jet plane and you're flying really fast and you're like, well, better buckle up. We got no choice. These guys, these are grown men staring at what possibly could be a brick wall going, well, we could just approach it like normal and, or maybe even like throw a rock at it and see if the rock hits the wall or, shoot it, see if a bullet actually hits it. But instead, we will all get in the one car we have and we will all drive very fast directly into it. That's really dumb. Anywhoots, guns chattered and grenade blasts shook the ground. We've just got to hit and get, Outback shouted. Give them the tear gas. See, how about that? How you got tear gas? How about you lob the tear gas from a distance into where the pyramid, like the middle of the pyramid would be. If it hits the pyramid, okay, great, it's a pyramid. If it doesn't, then it goes through the hologram, and you've now tear gassed the bad guys, taking them by surprise. Man. Soon the area was thick with tear gas. The Cobra troops backed off quickly, choking and coughing. Then Outback and Blizzard hopped out of the vehicle. "What does Yassi Amobi look like?" Blizzard called as he ran through the camp. "Just look for someone with a tortured expression on his face," Outback called back. Blizzard came to an old man in white robes who was tied to stakes in the ground. Wait a minute. How do they not know what this guy looks like? They were given a mission. People know who this man. I got some issues with the Stines here. Blizzard came to an old man in white robes who was tied to stakes in the ground. "Outback!" Blizzard shouted, cutting away the ropes holding the old man. Outback rushed over. He looked at the old man. "Yassi," he said. "We're G.I. Joe. We're here to get you out of here." The old man smiled weakly. "My diamonds," he said, pointing to several large burlap bags near him. "They make me make diamonds for them. Bring them." Outback quickly hoisted the man over his shoulders. Blizzard happily brought the bags of ice. In seconds, they were in their escape vehicle and driving away from the Cobra camp. "I made diamonds for them," Yassi said, "and they made me tell them my secret." "Don't worry about it," said Skidmark. Let's take a look at those sparklers." Blizzard opened one of the burlap bags. "Oh no," he said. "I must have grabbed the wrong bag. There's nothing but sand in here." "Sand?" said Yassi. He laughed and cried at the same time. "Then that means my formula is not stable. The diamonds turn back into sand." "I'd love to see the snakes' faces when they find out," Outback said. He was definitely laughing. "Yep, they'll really be in business with this formula," Blizzard said. "The 2-minute egg timer business." By Megan Stine and H.W. William Stine. So that's it for the Stine short stories. And I know they wrote the like the novelizations, which I know I've read those. I know, or the Choose Your Own Adventures. I know those were more capably written than these, so I get it. These are very short adventures. You got to squeeze in a lot. They make some bad choices here. How do you not know what the guy looks like? Like, for real? How do you not know what he looks like? And I get it, there's limited space. You're not going to have a lot of interaction with the Cobras, but they were supposed to, like, what if they had the formula that worked? Like, there's a lot going on this that I don't approve. I don't approve of any of this. But they saved the day. And we made it, gang. We made it, ladies and gentlemen. We made it through the G.I. Joe magazine. This is my first time reading all these. I got to be absolutely honest there. Not that I would have a reason to lie. That'd be weird. I've never read all these. Like I said, I'm missing the last two. Maybe 2 or 3, but I think it's only the last 2 in my collection. And I've never read through them. So now we've read through them. That's kind of fun. I'm really excited. I'm really glad you guys came along on this ride with me. I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm sure a lot of you have never read these as well. So next week, probably pick it up with either a How to Draw or a 3D Joe as I put the finishing touches on the new special coming up. And so stay tuned for more information on that, and I will see you all, or you will hear me all next week. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle. Oh wait, before we go, I totally forgot about this. So this very thing, I'll mention again next week. It was my pleasure to be a guest on a podcast called Boombox Music Talk. Give that a listen. Throw that into your podcatcher. Subscribe to it. New friend Mark over there. We had a great conversation about Cold Slither and the Cold Slither Bear on the Rock. So that's going to air in a little bit. It won't be anytime soon, is what Mark said. He does a great job with producing them. The episodes I've heard of his, they're very well, highly produced, much more produced than this ramshackle operation. But I was excited. It was great. We had a great 2-hour conversation. We talked all about G.I. Joe. We talked about music. We talked about G.I. Joe music, G.I. Joe voice acting. And then we dug into kind of the whole origins of the my old Cold Slither Behind the Rock show. So there might be some tidbits that you guys might enjoy out of that. So I'll tell you more, and I'll remind you of that as we get closer to that actual release date, which won't be for a little bit. But I told Mark I'd put the word out on his show, so check it out, Boombox Music Talk. So anyway, so there you go. And now you, Joe. And Joeing is half the battle.